Okay, I can't do it anymore. I'm losing breath. That was supposed to be the Hall of Fame theme, because they're not doing the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony next week. But welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. I'm Bill, and I'm joined by Fro.
Hi, my name is Empty Arena Fro.
Very good. This week, my gosh, we actually have news to discuss this week.
We are going to talk a lot about WrestleMania because I am going to fucking complain again about how WrestleMania is looking like, because they gone from shit to more shit and now even shittier than shit.
And we'll have to do like a timeline on that, because the last time we were on was a very rare Wednesday episode. So we have a lot to cover in the week, almost week and a half since our last episode. Plus, we are going to discuss the WWE Hall of Fame, the class of 2020. We're going to continue our tradition of doing it the week before WrestleMania, because we don't know if they're even going to have the actual ceremony this year.
No shit, Sherlock!
Plus,
there's so many things I want to talk about.
Plus, we're going to talk about the season premiere of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it now, the hardest 2 hours of television I've ever watched in my life.
It was bad. Bad in a good way.
In a very good way. In a very good way. Okay, so there is other wrestling news besides WrestleMania. So why don't we get into that first? And, Fro, I want you to stop me if you've heard the sentence before. Teddy Hart got arrested.
Stop!
Well, he got arrested again. He was arrested Thursday in Richmond, Virginia. Is slated for a court date today. It was supposed to have happened at 8:45 a.m., so by the time you guys hear this, it will have already happened. What I read about this time was that he got into an argument with his girlfriend, Maria Manick from Ring of Honor. And he started to physically attack her. And this indie wrestler, who I have no idea who it was, pulled a gun out on Teddy Hart. And allegedly there's video proof of this. And is like, you're not going to hurt her again, or else I'm going to shoot you, is the best way to put it. So Teddy Hart got arrested for basically beating up his girlfriend, who's the man-eater. Teddy, we've given you try after try after try after try. Why do you keep screwing up? Seriously. Well, once, I'm sure we're going to get some kind of report after the show's over. We'll probably talk about it next week for our big WrestleMania show, which is still going on, by the way. But,
Is it though? Really?
It is.
Is WrestleMania going to be this year? I have a argument that this isn't the WrestleMania we wanted or they were going to give us.
Like I said, when we get to it, we're going to talk about it.
I have a lot to talk about. Angry Fro on the podcast today. Grr.
All right. Well, we got some sad news to report, and that is that WWE Hall of Famer Bullet Bob Armstrong has been diagnosed with cancer and has chosen not to go under treatment. His son, Scott Armstrong, put out on a tweet, "Today my 80-year-old dad, WWE Hall of Famer Bullet Bob, asked if he could come over to get a workout. He's got bone cancer in his ribs, shoulder, and prostate, and chose not to go through any treatment. His choice. I put 30 pounds on there, and he said, 'Give me 100. Hashtag motivation." So Bullet Bob, at 80 years old, with cancer in 3 different parts of his body, is doing exercises.
Good for him.
Way to go, Bullet Bob. Way to go, Bullet Bob. The ratings for the AEW NXT Wars came out.
What ratings? Yes.
And to no surprise, AEW won again. However, they did lose some audience this week. They were down.
I'm not shocked by that either.
They were down about 123,000.
Mm-hmm.
However, NXT went up this week. They went up 127,000.
And I lost something on the floor.
Yeah, you did. So, and I gotta be honest, bro. I actually watched. Well, I watched. Wednesday nights, my busiest night with Masked Singer, which we'll get to in a moment.
Right.
And then AEW and NXT. AEW was good. NXT was good. And the last 15 minutes of both shows was reminding me of when I was a kid in the summertime during the Monday Night War, going back and forth between the two channels. It was so good because AEW had Jericho confronting Matt Hardy, and Vanguard 1 came in.
Right.
And he tried to get Vanguard 1 to join the Inner Circle. It was so great.
It was really funny.
It was great.
And I have to say this, by all WWE, by all WWE product that has been on TV this week, I will definitely say that NXT is the best.
Gosh, yes.
Oh, I have so much trouble watching Raw and SmackDown right now.
Because NXT gave us match after match after match, and then the final segment was placed perfectly where it should be, with Gargano and Ciampa and Triple H. And, they're making the match, and for a brief moment, I thought Hunter was going to say, "We're going to do this at WrestleMania," which would have, made me pop. But they're like, "No, we're going to do it in 2 weeks on NXT."
Yeah, I'm happy that they're not doing NXT TakeOver before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I canceled that. That at least shows some freaking balls from WWE. But I have to talk a little about Raw and SmackDown.
Well, real quick.
Yes.
Hold on, real quick before you do that. The next 2 weeks of NXT are basically going to be the matches that, for the most part, would have been at that takeover.
Right.
Because next week they have a triple threat match for the North American title. Pardon me. And then Velveteen Dream's going to face Bobby Fish. I doubt that was going to take place at TakeOver. And then the following week is going to be not only Ciampa Gargano, but the women's ladder match. So, okay, now you may discuss Raw and SmackDown, because I might have to agree with you on some of the stuff you say.
Right now, it feels... I remember when I came into wrestling, I started watching TNA, and it it was just around the era when King Booker was leaving NXT. No, sorry, Impact. And they got him into matches. And he was one of my favorites, and the reason why I switched over to WWE, because I heard he was moving, and then I started watching WWE. And I remember when Impact was at its worst with the Hulk Hogan era and things like that. And I can't compare the situation we are in now with Raw and SmackDown to that, other than in quality. Because quality-wise, I think it is on the same level. Right now, it is incredibly hard for me to watch both Raw and SmackDown. And it is only about booking, and that is what NXT proved this week. Because they were not in front of an audience. Did you care that they were not in front of an audience this week?
Nope.
Did you even think about it?
Nope.
No. Not one single time did I think about it when I was watching NXT. But I did it on Raw and SmackDown because they do such a big fucking number out of it.
Okay. My thing, because when we recorded last week, I really didn't get a chance to talk about the Raw that took place that Monday.
Right.
But now, we've had time. I can put my 2 cents. The Raw, not this past Monday, but the previous Monday, was awful.
Abysmal.
Because you had an Edge promo, which is good. Mm-hmm. I like that promo.
Oh, yeah.
Then, the next hour and a half was showing the men's Royal Rumble match.
Yeah.
And Fro, I kid you not, I turned the channel because I'm going to be straight up with everyone. I watched that match on Saturday to get notes to record for a future episode of Eliminated, which will pop up in about 2 months, a little less than 2 months. And I'm like, I'm not rewatching this match that I saw 2 days ago.
No.
So, that's gone. And then you have one match on Raw, only one, and that was actually a good match. Andrade and Rey Mysterio was actually a good match. Well,
it was okay.
It could have been worse. And then, to end it all, one of the absolute worst segments in the history of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And this is a big difference, or big thing. Because if there had been an audience, the Austin segment is not that bad.
No, but it didn't work here. For an empty arena, it did not work.
And then,
and here's where my problem with the booking comes in. It's like, you don't book this for an empty arena.
No.
You just don't.
No.
Like, who said that was a good idea? I know who, and his name is Vince McMahon.
And then you have poor Byron.
Oh, I felt so bad for him.
Sweet, lovable Byron.
Right.
Having these numbers for every rule that Austin gives for 316 Day. You gave that an 8. Oh, I thought it'd been a little higher. It was just, oh my God, it was awful. And then SmackDown was a little bit better. I think they learned they learned the mistake from Raw, because they had a little bit more matches, and they only replayed one match. But that one was to hype a WrestleMania match, so I'll give that a pass.
But that's not my problem with this.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just going piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then this past Monday, wasn't really. It was better. It was a little bit better than the previous Monday. Let's say that. Because you actually had matches on the show. You had 3 of them. You had a good tag match that had a botch ending. You had a semi-jobber match with the Street Profits. And then you had a very good jobber match with Aleister Black. And then AJ Styles comes out and he's like, I challenge you to a boneyard match. Okay, what the hell's a boneyard match? Yeah, I thought at first they were like, I thought it was another way of saying, oh, it's going to be a buried alive match. But no, we got this pirate-themed WrestleMania. We're going to do a boneyard match. And then, Seth came out, accepted the challenge for KO, and then Randy Orton comes out, and it's like, well, we know he's going to accept the challenge. God, why would you put it at the end?
Mm-hmm.
And then with SmackDown tonight, or this Friday, depending on when you guys listen to it, the big match that I know of is the Usos and the New Day with the winning team to face Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania, or so they say, because when we get into this WrestleMania saga in just a little bit, Fro, things have changed a little bit.
Yeah, because every match on WrestleMania will be live, right? Bill?
Yeah.
Every single match will be live in front of us. Nothing will be pre-taped or anything, will it? No, nothing.
Oh, man. God, I can't wait.
How much of in real not joking here? Mm-hmm. How much do you think is really going to be live?
Not a single bit.
Nothing.
Do you want to talk about WrestleMania now?
Yes.
All right. So, what I want everyone to do is, wherever you are, sit down. You're going to need to brace yourself for this. Grab yourself a drink. Doesn't matter if it's alcoholic or not. Because a lot has changed since last Wednesday's episode. So, when we last were with you guys, when you were listening to us, we had put an abrupt ending into the show saying Rob Gronkowski is going to host WrestleMania and it's going to be 2 days long. That's where we last left you.
Mm.
Since then, here is what has happened. And someone's got to make a book out of this Sunday. I will buy this freaking book.
Because everything is going to be live, and we're going to have every matches that they said they would have at WrestleMania. How they are going to stretch this for 2 fucking days, I have absolutely no clue.
Okay, so let's begin with this. They decided late in the week, last week, that they are going to they're going to tape episodes of SmackDown, episodes of Raw, episodes of NXT. Okay, makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Oh, by the way, they're going to also do 2 days worth of taping for WrestleMania.
What? Say that again? What? They're going to do what?
They are going, or they have taped 2 days worth. 2 days of WrestleMania. So, it's like...
Give me one fucking single reason to watch this live.
There will be no spoilers. How about that? That's my argument.
You don't think I could find spoilers for WrestleMania before WrestleMania? Of course I would.
Bro, if someone leaks out the results, that person is going to lose their head. They're going to...
Well, It's pre-taped. It's going to come out before WrestleMania.
But it's WrestleMania! It's the biggest show.
Nobody cares! Nobody fucking cares. At least WWE doesn't care about
WrestleMania. I disagree with it. Okay, so anyway, let's continue on. So, earlier this week, the mayor of Orlando, Florida, and I think the county executive for where Orlando's in, I think it's Orange County, Florida, they announced that a stay-at-home would go into effect on March 26th, which was yesterday when we were recording this. And it would be this way until April the 9th. So in about 2 weeks' time is when the stay-at-home is going to stop. So basically, after that, it makes sense for them to do the recording if you're going to have this stay-at-home thing. So it's like, okay, they're going to record 2 days worth of WrestleMania. Then comes last night. And I honestly cannot blame Roman on this one.
No, me neither. but it is funny.
It is. So Roman Reigns is supposed to be in one of the big matches of WrestleMania. He's going to face Goldberg for the Universal title.
Goldberg.
Yep. Because, that match was going to be a big match. Potentially, maybe. Roman Reigns pulls himself from WrestleMania.
How do you do that?
Because you're Roman Reigns, you're one of Vince's boys, and you can do that. But here's the thing.
But how do you do that without consequences? There's absolutely nobody that said to him, hey, you can't do that. No. They just go, oh, cool.
But Fro, here's the thing. He has a very weak immune system.
I get that.
That stems... Right, no, I know you get it, but...
yeah.
But it stems from, when he had leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of this, he pulled himself out of WrestleMania. And I want to read, actually, some of the comments our Facebook group had replied to this. Excuse me. Ernesto said, it's better to be safe than sorry. Agree. I think we agree with that. Ted wrote, yeah, it is better to be on the safer side. That being said, not sure all cancers are the same, but my mom was recovering from cancer this summer, and doctors said her immune system is perfectly fine. And that's a very important thing to point out. The immune system of people who have had leukemia or cancer, it's really a case-by-case situation. Because some people have strong immune systems, some have weak immune systems, some don't even have immune systems. Now Jason, who we've had on our show many times, said, good for Roman, life and health are more important than wrestling. We agree there. Let's see, I want to read another. Oh, here's a good line. I think you'll agree with Ted here, Fro. Going to guess this show won't be one to remember anyway.
Yeah, no, well, it will be one
It will
to
be remembered. It will.
I think it's for the wrong reasons.
Let's see. Dennis wrote, this is going to be a shit fest just like AEW was the past few weeks. I commend the rosters and the crews for both organizations and say thank you for attempting to entertain the nation or the national worldwide audience. Nate Dogg wrote, this is why they should just have canceled WrestleMania altogether. I know the virus isn't their fault, but this whole thing is just becoming such a mess. And then Chrissy wrote, I don't blame him. Money and glory mean nothing if you're dead. That's very true. Then Eddie wrote, should have been postponed till June, and they should still scrap it even if they got everything recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final one is from Anthony, who wrote, I feel bad for the WWE. I mean, what exactly are they supposed to do? I mean, people are angry, and they're thinking it's all the WWE's fault. I mean, WTF are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, we get...
I know what they should do, but they don't have the moral backbone to do that.
But, Fro, this gets even crazier. Because, I'm going to read the next part. Let me get this real quick. And then I'm going to read this to everyone. This is from Dave Meltzer. The reason why Roman Reigns said he was not, or he refused to do it, he said, I'm not doing this. The Miz is sick. Dave Meltzer wrote, it was interesting because he was there and Roman Reigns was at the Performance Center. And he made the call, and it had to do in some form with Miz being sick and the Usos not being happy about it. I don't know much else, but that's all I was told. You know, it's a weird story because if you followed it, because basic logic was that he should have stayed home. Everyone's got a risk, but his risk was high. His reward was high too, but his risk was really high too. For a guy who has kids, it was his decision, but that decision shouldn't have been put on him. To make this even more crazy, The Miz is now not wrestling on WrestleMania.
Oh, really?
Really?
What a shock! I didn't know this. Oh, I did.
So
just to let me get this clear.
Okay.
Oh
yeah, and go ahead first, and then I got to add another part.
Two matches. Well, 2 matches have been cancelled so far. Is there more matches that are going to be cancelled now?
Well, okay. Now, before I answer that, I also want to mention that Rey Mysterio and Dana Brooke are right now currently quarantined in their respective homes.
Say that 10 times fast.
Exactly. Dana Brooke was originally going to be in the SmackDown Women's Title match, and it was announced last week on SmackDown.
Yes, it was.
She gets pulled off because she felt sick. So now that match is now a 5-way match for the SmackDown Women's title. Rey Mysterio was supposed to have wrestled Andrade for the U.S. title at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Now Andrade is wrestling for the Raw Tag Team titles because Rey is quarantined. So that match is scrapped. With Goldberg, this is where it gets interesting, and I'm actually going to spoil tonight's SmackDown. So if you want to be surprised, please move forward. I can't even tell you the time, but just move forward a little bit. Okay, did they move?
I think so.
Okay. It will now be Goldberg against Braun Strowman for the Universal title at WrestleMania. And
spoiler over.
And Fro, I think Braun could win the Universal title. Because I don't really think Goldberg was meant to be a long-term champion.
I hope so.
So, yeah, WrestleMania. And then, just to throw one little caveat into this, I read this, and I'm going to trust my man who put this up on Facebook, Michael Quinn, from our vantage point. Allegedly, they recorded 2 endings to WrestleMania.
I don't doubt that for a second.
I don't know what they are. We don't know what it is, but they've recorded 2 endings to WrestleMania this year.
Mm-hmm. And
this is actually, this is a good conversation piece talking about this because somebody brought up last night about the U.S. Hockey Olympic team beating the Soviets 40 years ago. The Miracle on Ice. That game, what a lot of the young people don't know, that game was taped. That game was taped. So when it aired that night here in the U.S., it was on a tape delay. So big sporting events have been taped and shown later. Fro, I know your feeling about this, but I'm still going to watch WrestleMania just to see how bad this is.
But here's my thing. I'm probably going to watch it as well because there's nothing else to fucking do right now. But I feel so deflated about this. I have such a double feeling about this. Like I said, I can't remember having this much doubt about supporting the product since I had when I watched Impact at its worst, and it is 10% the coronavirus, yes, and 90% WWE.
Yes.
Because the thing that the most people don't understand listening to this, the plan was always to have it for 2 days. Just to make that clear. That was a rumor going on before this corona thing came out. And I think right now, with the matches they have cancelled and the things that we know that are pre-taped, at least some of it will leak. I'm not saying everything will leak, but there are some matches that I think people are more interested to leak about. For example, I think we will know the result of the Undertaker match before WrestleMania. I believe so. I'm not going to say it out loud, and we're not going to say the result if we know anything on the podcast.
No, we never do, unless it's something stupid or serious.
Right.
Like the Braun Strowman thing, we have to say that for serious reasons.
But here's my thing. It's like you can come back from this, and that's what I think Impact has learned. That WWE is also kind of learning, because I mean they have put the walls closer so we don't see the audience that we're supposed to be there and things like that. They're doing grips that doesn't make it sound as stupid as it is, because it is very stupid to put a promo out there, for example, to nobody. That is incredibly unsmart of them to do. But when it comes to WrestleMania, I have a feeling that we will come out of it and say, was it worth it? And I do think the ringing endorsement of it will be a no.
Right.
And I can say that already now that I'm not going to watch WrestleMania because I think it's good to support WWE right now because I think they're doing the wrong thing. And I said that last week, and I will again say it that for me, I wish people were boycotting it and things like that. But for me, as a journalist or a podcaster or whatever you can call it, I find it also interesting to cover because it's going to be a shit thing to cover. Even though if it's good, it's going to be elements of it that's bad.
I mean, this is an unprecedented situation.
Very much so.
That more than likely will never happen again. Knock on wood. Like I said, I really think when this is all done, there will be a book written about this. I really do. I mean, when we're older and we, years go by, I would love to hear the stories from people that were involved in this about how it was, what the setup was, the order.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's going to be the most interesting thing to me. But for right now, as of today's show, they have 12 matches for WrestleMania.
Right, over 2 days.
Right. So what you could do, unless they... I got a feeling they're going to add a couple more matches. I think you have to make it even. You have to have... I'm just going to put a random number out, like 6 to 8 one night, and then do another 6 to 8 the other night. But
yeah, that's I was thinking 6 to 8.
But here, and I want to go back to Wrestle Kingdom from earlier this year. I think the difference between what we're about to experience next week with WrestleMania and what New Japan did, and I'm actually going to give WWE a little bit of credit on this one. Where New Japan went wrong, to some degree, with the exception of the main event, because that had to be 2 nights. They had wrestlers wrestling twice on night 1 and night 2. With the exception of like a few people. The main event had to be that way. Liger's retirement had to be that way. Everything else could have been done on night 1 or night 2. That's where I think WWE is in a way doing this right, to where they are only having these guys wrestle once. But we shall see how it looks. Plus, they've got over a week to edit out, some stuff to make it look presentable. Especially when they have somebody singing America the Beautiful to nobody. Yeah, I know that joke went over. Anyway, let's talk about something that makes us happy. The Masked Singer.
Yeah, we have 2 episodes of The Masked Singer because we did it early last week. What did you think all over, by the way?
The first one, I was very wrong on Swan.
Yes, me too.
The second one, once I saw one particular clue, which I'll mention when we get to it, I knew exactly who it was.
I was very happy. So, let's go week 7. Astronaut sang Signed, Sealed, Delivered by Stevie Wonder. Night Angel sang Million Reasons by Lady Gaga. My favorite Lady Gaga song, by the way. I love that song. T-Rex sang Push It Real Good by Salt and Pepper. Swan sang I Hate Myself for Loving You by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
That was actually a good version of that.
Oh yeah, I agree. Rhino sang Nice to Meet Ya by Neil Horan, and Swan was the one that was going out, and Under the Mask was who, Bell?
Bella Thorne.
Yeah. I was like, who is this?
Exactly. That's how my friend was. I thought for sure it was Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Right, me too.
So, to this week, they did the group number, which was Let's Get Loud by Jennifer Lopez.
Let's Get Loud.
Night Angel sang Shout by the Isley Brothers. Astronaut sang Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. T-Rex sang Jai Ho, You Are My Destiny by A.R. Rahman and the Pussycat Dolls. And Rhino sang Tracks of My Tears by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. And it was the T-Rex that was eliminated.
And I was right again. I was very happy I was right, because Under the Mask was Jojo Siva.
I'll tell you the clue that made me realize who T-Rex was. If you looked in the clue package, there was a tray of food, and it had like blue dust all over it. As soon as I saw that, I knew exactly that was her.
Yeah.
That was the giveaway clue. But I'll say this. Night Angel got very lucky, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Because I think she chose a lazy song to perform.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm sure Night Angel was thinking, oh, well, I'm in the Super 9. I'm just going to pick an easy song to sing. Because Shout, the Isley Brothers Shout, because there are other versions of Shout, Tears for Fears. This song doesn't have that many lyrics.
Right.
And, like, all it was like, gotta get a little louder now, gotta get a little louder now, gotta get a little louder now. And then she hit that high note.
Yeah.
At the end. That was a dangerous song to pick, to sing.
Oh, I could not agree more.
Because we've talked about so many times since we've watched this show. You picked the wrong song, you could be in trouble. Night Angel, to me, got very lucky this time. She picked...
Yeah, I think she probably was next to last to going out after Jojo Siva.
Yeah.
I think so. But who do you think Night Angel, Astronaut, and Rhino is?
If you'd asked me about Astronaut last week,
right,
I would have said Jonathan Taylor Thomas, because he matches the height, and he was in Home Improvement.
Right.
After this week, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no, I have no clue about Astronaut either.
Honestly, this group, I have no idea who any of the three are.
Yeah. I do think, what was my notes in Rhino? I don't remember, but I think I Googled it correctly. Talk a little about Night Angel. I think she will win. I have a strong feeling that Night Angel will win if she picks the right songs.
Oh, man, it's so tough because Kitty is really good.
Yeah, as well.
Frog is really good. Banana is good. Turtle, Kangaroo. I can't count out Kangaroo either.
Mm.
I don't know. I think once it gets down to maybe 5 or 6, I'll have a clear pick as to who I think will win, but it's very tough right now.
I'm beginning to think that Rhino is kind of an athlete. I don't know, but my theory is Barry Zito.
I don't know. I really don't know who that is, who it could be.
Night Angel, I also have some notes about. Who's Night Angel? Candy Burris.
I have heard that one a lot. Somebody on a Facebook group, I guess, made fun of somebody because one person thought it was Pat Benatar, and I'm like, no, that ain't Pat Benatar.
No,
I love Pat Benatar. I know her voice. That is not Pat Benatar.
No, it's not. And I also think maybe it's Louis Capaldi who is the astronaut. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Now, I do have here on Wikipedia, they're not going to have a guest judge for the next episode.
But that's the 9 coming
that's the start of the Super 9. After that, it will be Sharon Osbourne and Yvette Nicole Brown that will be guest judges.
Yeah. I like her.
Can I just say, just to have laughs, Ken Jeong's guess of T-Rex after the performance might be the single worst guess in the history of this show.
It's up there, yeah.
How in the world do you get Honey Boo Boo for that?
No.
I've never heard Honey Boo Boo sing before. Although maybe I don't want to hear her sing. Still to come here on the show, folks, we are going to review the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2020, and we are going to discuss our list of the 5 worst decisions WWE has ever made.
Yeah.
Because I almost have that list set in my mind. I got my top 3-ish to a degree, but we'll get into that a little later on. Okay, so this past Tuesday, if you didn't see it on YouTube, because they had put it up on YouTube earlier, was the season premiere of Dark Side of the Ring. And this was a 2-hour season premiere, all on the Chris Benoit tragedy. Like I said at the beginning of the show, that was, and I'm being totally honest, the hardest 2 hours of television I've ever watched in my life. Because it, how could I say this? It brought me back to not only his death, but the Eddie death, which we'll mention in a moment. I mean, I knew going into it, it was going to be rough. I had no idea it was going to be that hard to watch. And I wonder for you, Fro, because I was thinking about you while watching this. You weren't a fan when either of these gentlemen died.
No.
What was your thoughts while watching this?
I mean, I came into wrestling around when I remember watching live when Rey Mysterio pointed to heaven, and I didn't understand why. But I think I came into this very open-minded because more or less to tell my story with this, I am a very Benoit fan, and I don't mean that in what he did, but
Right.
I'm very much wrestling related. I think he's one of the best ones up there. And I can say that from a side where I didn't know the story coming into it. I watched a lot of Benoit matches, and I think it's sad that WWE is trying to erase him more or less from his history just because he killed his family. I'm not saying that's only because he killed his family,
Right.
but you understand what I mean. And I was prepared to like this, not love this, and definitely not get as emotional as I did, because it's it's one of the hardest things I have ever watched in my entire life.
Yeah. Well, I want to say before we get into the key notes from this, number one, nobody, and I mean nobody, comes off looking like a D-bag or a jerk or making it about themselves. That's the first thing I want to say. I think the people that were involved in this were fantastic. Because you know how, like, with some documentaries, it doesn't matter what subject it is, you'll have that one that'll try to be like, oh, you know, if they done this to me, blah, blah, you know, like that. You know what I mean? Or do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I can understand where that. Yeah, definitely.
Nobody did that. Not
Right.
one person. I never got that feeling, which is a good feeling. The other thing was, to me, after watching this, I think all the, you know, conspiracies about what happened that weekend should be put to rest. It should just be put to rest. You know, be like, oh, Chavo did it, Superstar, or not Superstar, Kevin Sullivan did it. Let's put that all to rest now. After watching it, it should just go away. The whole conspiracy thing should go away. Okay, so some of the notes, some of the big things that I thought of. Number one, Eddie didn't like Chris in the beginning, which I thought was a little bit funny. It's like, oh, this guy's an asshole, you know? That was sort of funny. The whole Benoit Sullivan angle was really rough if you think back on it now. Because I saw live on pay-per-view the Bash at the Beach match that they talked about, and that's a good match. That is such a good match. I actually recommend people to watch that match.
But I find it a little interesting when we were talking about like worst decisions WWE has ever made. We will talk about Benoit again, because I think that's one of the things that I did wrong was erasing him from WWE's history.
Right.
Like you have to take away from that. Other things than what it was.
Yeah.
I understand, but
I'm going to say something about that as well in a moment. Basically, the storyline broke up Kevin Sullivan and Nancy. And I find it interesting that Kevin Sullivan denied to be interviewed for this. Especially the whole, like, did you attack Nancy? Did you abuse her? You know, I found that very interesting. So, wink, wink. The whole Eddie OD'd 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Surprised me. The fact that Vicky, and I love Vicky. I think she's a sweetheart. The fact that twice she called the hospital. She called for an ambulance. And then the 3rd time, she leaves him there, takes their kids to school. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, damn, we could have lost him even sooner. So that blew my mind. And then with the day Eddie died, because I remember that day, to be honest, I knew that Chavo had gone to the room. I didn't know that Eddie was still barely alive. And then he died in Chavo's arms. That's one of the saddest things, you know, to ever happen, to lose a loved one like that. And then Vince calls Vicky and he's crying. When have we ever heard Vince cry? I don't think I've ever heard anybody say Vince McMahon cries. When I found out the day that he died, I was on the computer, and this was when AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, and I was talking to one of my eFed friends. I don't remember who it was. And he's like, did you hear about Eddie? I'm like, Eddie? What are you talking about? So I went to .com, and I see that he passed away, and I was just shocked. I was blown. Because I remember that day was a TV taping, which is true, because they were doing Raw and SmackDown on the same night. So, and this is the day before one of my sister's birthday, by the way. So we have the birthday that day, and then get the Monday, and it's, you know, like a work day. I get through it. And then the opening to Raw was one of the saddest things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know people will say, you know, Benoit crying, because there were people crying, but the one image I never got out of my mind, and I still don't to this day, is that little kid crying in the stands, and his dad is holding him, comforting him. That was one of the saddest sights I've ever seen. And then they played the video tribute, and it's to Johnny Cash's Hurt. And I broke down and cried. I'm not going to lie. I broke down and cried like a baby. I mean, that was so heartbreaking. Because apparently, and I didn't know this till later, the night of that taping, there was going to be a triple threat match for the world title, the world heavyweight title. And Eddie was supposed to win the belt that night. And then, you know, they ended up later saying that it ended up being he had heart disease, which I could see because, you know, he had done steroids as well, you know, and then Jericho talking about the funeral and how Benoit cried so hard that the tears went through Jericho's suit and his shirt and to his chest. I mean, my God, Benoit was beyond devastated, and then Nancy and them were helping Vicky out, and Chris was just beyond. I think he was beyond consolable, really. If you think about it. And when you look back at it now, that day might have been the beginning of the end for Benoit. Because Eddie was his confidant, was his best friend. You know, I mean, he carried Eddie's Bible that was given to him for Christmas with him. And Benoit was not a religious guy. I mean, damn, you know. And then we get to the whole Benoit incident. There, you know, the Nancy's sister, who was really, I thought she came off really good. I mean, let me rephrase that. I thought she came off as someone that was real, was very real. And then David Benoit, who looks exactly like his dad. Oh my God!
It's almost scary.
It really is.
Yeah.
And David said how, you know, when he was over at their house, it was never stepmom, stepbrother, it was mom, referring to Nancy. And he loved his little brother. He loved Daniel to pieces, that, you know, because they were like, oh, we're going to grow up, we're going to be tag team champions. I mean, he loved his brother to death. Pardon the phrase there. And then, you know, the whole breakdown, Chavo getting the weird text, Scott Armstrong getting the text. And I'll be honest, bro, I actually remember that weekend from a completely different point of view. I've never said this to you, and I don't think I've said this to anyone, wrestling-wise. I've said this to a few people, but not to many people. I remember that weekend day by day, because 2007 was the shits for me. That was the worst year of my life. My grandma passed away a month prior to that event. The Saturday before we find out Benoit and everyone died, we get a letter in the mail from my aunt, my grandma's sister. My aunt had Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It was one of the two. She had written to my grandmother a happy birthday letter. And it came on the day of my grandmother's, what would have been her 96th birthday. It's just very freaky. Sunday comes, nothing really happens. I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I probably was just hanging out doing Bill stuff. Then Monday comes. And that was supposed to be a big episode of Raw. That was a special 3-hour Raw. Before they went to 3 hours every week. And this was going to be the Vince McMahon funeral. Because Vince McMahon had, quote-unquote, died.
Yeah, in the crash.
Yeah.
I remember.
So, I get online 2 hours before the show. I go to the Ring of Honor website, and this is back when they had their message board on their website. And that was a fun message board if you ever went to it. And then, for some reason, something told me to go to WWE.com. I type that in, and I see on the front page, the front of the site, Chris Benoit found dead. I could not believe it. I went back to the Ring of Honor back to the message board, and I posted, Benoit was found dead. And there were people like, you're fucking joking. This is a joke. People could not believe it. Like, I couldn't believe it. And, you know, it was just another blow. Like, it was stunning. And then you get to Raw, the arena's empty, Vince does that intro that was played, and it is true, there were no details at the time. You know, all we knew was that Chris had died, his wife had died, his son had died. So they did the 3-hour tribute. And I'm not going to be upset about them because they didn't have details at the time. They really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the tribute show, they play some of his matches, and then the next day is when it goes absolutely crazy, and then that's where Vince is like, I will not mention Chris Benoit ever again after that. So then you get to Nancy's funeral, and this is something I didn't know. Jim Ross is the only person from WWE there. The only person. And Nancy's sister had every right to be upset to him. Really did. And it's not JR's fault. He was sent there. And then the thing that got me was the fact that no one from WWE called Nancy's sister to talk to her, say if you need anything. And then with David, the only two people were Chavo and Jericho. The only two people. That is absolutely pathetic on WWE's part.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know he was a wrestler on your roster. He was on TV. Yes, he did this terrible thing, but you should still go out of your way to check on their loved ones to see if they're okay. I mean, for God's sakes, you know, at least call them. They basically blackballed for no reason Benoit's son and Nancy's sister for no reason. And then you get into the media coverage. Oh my God, Fro. This is where I lost all my trust in the media, was this. Because it was like, oh, Chris Benoit, he was nicknamed the Rabbit Wolverine. He was called the Canadian Crippler. And they're just blowing this out of their ass. It's out of proportion. You know, it was fucking ridiculous. And I apologize for using the F word, but I had to say it. It really was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like, oh, it was steroids. Thank God for Chris Nowinski. Thank God for him. Because he was like, well, wait a minute. Well, maybe it wasn't the steroids. And they did the CTE, and he basically, Benoit had the brain of an 80-year-old man. I think ultimately, yeah, it probably was a combination of the alcohol that Benoit had, the steroids he was using, and probably his brain being damaged. But I think Benoit ultimately died from a broken heart. I really do. I'm not saying what he did is excusable, because it's not. He took 2 innocent lives away. But I think he did that out of just a broken heart, in all honesty. But at least this has a happy ending, because Chris Jericho was able to get David, and I want to say Sandra was Nancy's sister's name, reunited. And, you know, at least they're now communicating. Like, I think they wanted to communicate, but, like, the different sides of the families were like, oh, you know, you don't want to talk to them.
Right.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. And then they had an after show that aired. And they played some, you know, never before seen clips. And there's one clip that didn't make it to air, but they did show it on the post show. I tell you, Twitter is, you know, people using it is so bad because they're making fun of David Benoit. And they were leaving tweets to Chavo of the text that Chris left him over and over again. And it's like, do you all have any effing, you know, heart to just leave these people alone? You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I felt so bad, mostly, for Sandra and David Benoit. Those were the two at the end that I felt more sympathy for. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
no, it was extremely hard to watch. Like I said, for me that was outside of this. It was even hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at the end of the day. At the end of the day, this is something. I know people. There are still people that are not comfortable talking about this to this day.
No, and I understand why.
Yeah, I do too. This, like I said, was the hardest 2 hours I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
And I think they did a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Of doing this, presenting it. It wasn't a situation where they were exploiting it.
Right.
I don't know. I really don't know what to say. It's been talked about. I think this is the best version we're ever going to get out of it. And I ultimately would like to have this put away for good. It's been done. We've talked about it. This is the closest to the truth we'll ever get. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. It is over.
I agree.
But
should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about mistakes that WWE has made over the years.
Yes. I'm very happy to have a list in front of me.
And we're going to talk about today, because this was inspired by what WWE has decided to do with WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I'm going to spoil it. It's on the list.
We have the 5 biggest mistakes WWE we think have ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should go, one by one, 5. Yeah. So ultimately we get to number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, Fro, since this was your idea, I'm going to let you start. What is your number 5?
Sure. My number 5 is reducing the meaning of divas. What I mean about that, I will read a little where it says, the women from the past has shown a great deal of what it takes to be a real woman wrestler, with examples of Trish Status, and Lita, and many more could tell shown dominated the company, especially today, where the NXT women have great matches, such as having Charlotte and Sasha Banks compete against each other.
Mm-hmm.
However, women like Emma, who is great within the ring, has shown NXT a rival match of Emma and Paige, but when she came into the main roster, she became a joke and couldn't show much of her capability as a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, divas like Natalia, Naomi, Emma, Paige, and AJ Lee could not show that they were given more time, and pay-per-views also did not show their matches, and Raw and SmackDown main event superstars to show their talent. So they reduced the meaning of what it was of being a diva and taking it down. So the hashtag give divas a chance thing was a big fail in my book.
Okay.
So that's my number 5.
That's a good number 5.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 is very controversial, but I'm going to explain why it's on my list. Number 5, WWE buying WCW.
Mm-hmm.
At the time,
I thought they agree, actually.
at the time, this was looked at as a smart move because they would be getting new talent, and they'd also be getting that library of footage that they had. But as Vince McMahon said on that Raw, he bought his competition, and wrestling fans felt after that the effects of it, and it took nearly 18 years to have real competition against WWE being All Elite Wrestling. So I think them buying out WCW for a cheap price of $2 million is one of the worst things WWE has ever done.
I could not agree more.
All right, let's go to number 4.
Raw becomes 3 hours. Is my number 4.
I never thought about that. Oh, that's a good call.
I mean, it was perfect. Around 2 hours. Going to 3 hours have destroyed Raw. And they're not doing more matches, they are doing more talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not watching wrestling for just talking for 2 hours than having one or 2 matches. So yeah, Raw becoming 3 hours is one of their biggest mistakes, if you ask me.
I think when they did the 3-hour specials every once in a while, it was fine.
Yeah, well, fine. But...
Okay, number 4 for me. The handling of Owen Hart's death.
Mm-hmm.
They continued the show after the accident. At the time, I thought that was the right move. Looking back on it now, probably should not have done that. They probably should have stopped the show. I don't care if it's pay-per-view or not. Somebody gets seriously injured, hurt, or in this case, dies. You don't continue the show. And yes, that show is on the network. The network's been up for 6 years. I still have yet to see the show. I want to. But I haven't. Oh, you have seen it?
Oh, yeah.
How is it?
I mean, it was hard to watch.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
All right. Let's go to number 3.
Yeah, erasing Chris Benoit from WWE history is my number 3. And I like one of the things I found this on the list. Even though he did It's horrible. Benoit is not forgotten to the fans. It's one of the comments there. I will always remember Benoit as a great athlete, not for the tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt the guy is a wrestling legend to cover up the years of strain Vince McMahon to put him through is the last everybody should do. They erased him from history, even the emotional match at WrestleMania 20. Oh, Jesus Christ.
One of my favorite main events ever.
Yeah. Can't WWE just respect Benoit as a wrestler? So that's definitely my number 3.
My number 3 is WrestleMania 36 going on. I think that this should have been postponed. I don't think you can. Honestly, I don't think you could have canceled WrestleMania. I really don't. You could.
I think so.
I think you could have pushed it to a later date, and then after that, start completely from scratch. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah, and that's my number 2.
There you go.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 after this week, or after watching, is the Benoit situation. And I want to say this. One thing they did right with WWE.
I think we have the same one.
Yeah, we
number
do.
1.
But before we get to our unanimous number 1.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I was gonna say, them keeping Benoit on the network was a good move, and the best way to this was my comparison at the time, and it's still true. If you did a whole streaming service of WWE, and you don't have Benoit on there, that's the same or the equivalent to doing a history book or a book of history and not putting Hitler in there.
Right.
Because you got to have Hitler in there. He did terrible things, but people should know about it. Benoit
I agree.
was a terrific wrestler, probably in my top 20 all time.
Definitely.
Yeah, he still did a terrible thing, but he's still one of the greatest wrestlers that ever lived.
Yeah.
And I think we should just say it together, Fro, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Saudi Arabia!
Saudi Arabia!
That's our number 1. And it's not... And let's just say, for the record, it is not the fans.
It was very, very easy.
Yeah, this was very easy. But it's not the fans.
Not
the people of Saudi, not the common people of Saudi Arabia.
No.
It's the prince, all those people. That's why it's number 1.
I had it in my notes as this is clearly their worst decision ever made.
Well,
I mean, it is so blatantly stupid.
Well, now that WWE Network no longer airs in Saudi Arabia, they took that away from them. I don't know how that's gonna go, to be honest.
So stupid.
But yeah, those are we think the 5 worst things WWE has ever done. I'm gonna give an honorable mention real quick. The Katie Vick angle. That's an honorable mention for me.
Awful. Honorable mention for me was who took the streak.
Actually, we should call it dishonorable mention for this one.
Yeah, dishonorable mention. Yeah,
we really should. Okay.
WrestleMania being 16 hours.
Well, at least it's going to be split into 2 days this year, so.
Yeah, yay!
Yeah, I know.
More wrestling.
Okay.
But everything's going to be live, right? Live from the pre-tape.
But yeah, well, it's like I said earlier, the Miracle on Ice, that was pre-taped. And then my dad told me years ago, one of the sports, people here in D.C. actually spoiled the result of the game, and she lost her job within a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are now going to get into the WWE Hall of Fame. It was supposed to have been next Thursday, but because of everything that is going on in the world, it is not happening next Thursday. It could happen at a later date. It might not happen at all, for all we know. So, what we are going to do is we're going to go by the order of when they were announced.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about what they did in the ring, and if we think they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and then ultimately, we are going to give a grade for this class of 2020. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to do it by, the order will be done by when they were first announced. So, we will start with Batista.
Drone. Steve's so angry right now. Yeah, no. I like him better than than an actor, than a wrestler, so that's saying something.
You know,
I love him in the Guardians.
Oh, no, he's very good. He's very good in Guardians of the Galaxy. He really is. I tell you what, from about 05 till 08, he was really good. I'm not going to lie.
I think you're lying.
No, because he could have some good matches. Like, okay, I'll give you a couple examples. He had a very good match with John Cena at SummerSlam.
That was a good match.
That was a good match. He had a very good match at WrestleMania against The Undertaker. He had a good match with Mr. Kennedy at the Royal Rumble. When he is focused, which seems to be a lot, but when he's on his game, he's not that bad. I'm not saying he's one of like the 5 greatest, but he's actually good.
I guess so.
Of course, to list his accolades, was OVW Heavyweight Champion once, 4-time World Heavyweight Champion, 3-time co-holder of the World Tag Team titles twice with Ric Flair, once with John Cena, 2-time WWE Champion, co-holder of the WWE Tag Team titles with Rey Mysterio, and a 2-time winner of the Royal Rumble 2005 and 2014. So, I mean, I'm okay with Batista going in.
I think it's a boring, contrite choice.
I don't think he should be the headliner, but I think...
No, but that's kind of what they're making him up to be, so I don't like it. No.
Right. Alright. On the same day that Batista was announced to go into the WWE Hall of Fame, it was also announced that the New World Order would be going into the WWE Hall of Fame. But specifically, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Sean Waltman are the ones going in.
I never get tired of that joke.
I know.
I wonder how many people get that joke right now.
Do you want to explain the joke?
No, they can Google it.
Okay. Kevin Nash. Okay, so anyway, here's the thing with this. I'll start for this one because I want you to start, or I want you to have the next one to start.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're giving me the next one. Yeah.
No. Okay. The NWO is a very important group to the history of professional wrestling. They are.
Definitely.
My first episode was actually about the NWO. The very first episode of that wrestling show was about the NWO. What they did wrong was they had too many members in the group. Because, it starts off as Hall and Nash, then Hogan comes in, makes sense. Then DiBiase comes in, Ted DiBiase. Then the Giant, Big Show. And then Sean Waltman, Six Pac. And then this is where they start to get carried away. Because they will add NWO Sting, Vincent, Eric Bischoff, Buff Bagwell, Michael Wall Street, Bubba Rogers, Scott Norton, Randy Savage, Conan, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, Louis Spicoli, Dusty Rhodes, Brian Adams, Scott Steiner, The Disciples, Stevie Ray, Horace Hogan, Lex Luger, Sting, Disco Inferno, yes, I don't know how he got in there, David Flair, Torrie Wilson, Bret Hart, Jeff Jarrett, Ron and Don Harris, Medeja, Tylene Buck, April Hunter, Pamela Paulshock, Shakira, not the dancer, Booker T, and Shawn Michaels.
I love how you have to say not the singer, because people could think that it was the singer.
Well, you never know. She might have been in WCW.
Shakira.
I mean, he's still lying.
You like my ass.
Now, as far as them winning titles, they were very successful. Shawn, when he was 6, won the Cruiserweight title. Scott Hall won the United States title twice. Hulk Hogan won the WCW Heavyweight title 4 times. Kevin Nash once. Hall and Nash held the WCW tag titles on 6 separate occasions.
Right.
Then Hall and Nash each had one with a different partner. Honestly, the group should be in, but Eric Bischoff should also be in this group for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I have with it.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah, and I think they should be here? Sure. Do I think it's interesting? No. Do I think they should be second? No. It's like I have absolutely no anger or happiness.
Right.
Choice. It's just like, okay.
They were going to get in.
Okay.
Basically, they were. This is they were going to get in class. Let's just say it
Right.
as it is. Speaking of getting in, that leads us to our next inductees, the Bella Twins.
No. Bella 1 and Bella 2. Yeah, no, I mean, I can't think of 2 women that deserves it better. Wait, my grandmother and her grandmother again? Okay. No, it's just like, this is WWE on its worst. Like, this is atrocious. They have nothing to do in the Hall of Fame. And if there was a Hall of Fame of STDs, okay, I'm okay that they go into that. But this isn't the Hall of Fame of STDs, it's wrestling. And none of them can do what they are in the Hall of Fame of doing, because nobody of the 2 Bella Twins have wrestled one single fucking match of their entire fucking life.
They wrestled?
No! They don't. They pretend to wrestle. That's something else.
Alright. When they first started, the idea of switching individuals was actually a good idea, because they look alike.
It was funny.
No, it was good.
It was funny. Yeah.
It's when they started to develop a personality. I think is
What
where
person?
people had problems. Because it's like, oh, they're twin sisters. Oh, they go out with guys a lot. Oh, they, party and dance very inappropriately.
This is what I don't get. Why push them as whores?
Yeah. And then...
Like, they were escorts at the point. Like, that was all they were doing. They were following people out. Old men on... usually, all old men out when they came to the Hall of Fame. Like, they were escort girls.
And then...
Like, that's what they did.
And then they tried to make them as female role models for girls.
Yeah, and then one takes boob implantations, and suddenly we can see the difference between the two Bellatrix.
When one of them does her dance, and she's dancing like a stripper.
Mm-hmm. Such a good role model.
Really. And then Bree happily married Daniel Bryan, which I'm actually okay with, because at least those two are in love. Whereas Nikki was engaged to John Cena, and John Cena told Vince McMahon, "Look, Vince, I can't go through with this. This is not going to work. I just can't." And then
I bet that's what he said as well.
And then Nikki ends up getting engaged to her dancer from Dancing with the Stars and is now carrying his baby.
Yeah.
Actually, you probably didn't see it. She posted, Nikki did, a picture of herself, I think it's like 20 weeks pregnant or 22 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
She has a tattoo on her right butt cheek.
Of course she does.
I don't know what it is, but it's there.
Because that lady is a tramp. Oh yeah.
As far as championships won, Brie Bella was Diva champion 1 time, Nikki Bella was Divas champion 2 times, and the longest reigning Divas champion in history.
Yay!
Yeah.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm. Look, here's my thing. They were gonna get in. They were gonna get in sooner or later.
Yeah, that happens when you suck off all the bosses.
They just, you know what? It was like, let them in now, get it over with, be done. All right, next person is...
Last STD we had in the Hall of Fame was Hulk Hogan.
Repeat that?
I said last STD we had in the Hall of Fame was Hulk Hogan.
Anyway, the next person that was announced, JBL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll start.
Let's give the bully of WWE a prize.
Yeah.
Let's get him into the Hall of Fame.
No, it's true. It's true.
This is bullshit. This is so bullshit. Right after 2 years. It's not even gone 2 years after he bullied out one of the best commentators.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into the Hall of Fame. Can you think of anything worse to do to somebody that have come out and told their bully story without giving the bully a fucking prize for being a stupid fucking cunt?
Okay.
Oh, Jesus, I hate this. It's so incredibly trite, and it is so incredibly I don't understand their thinking.
Well, okay, here's their thinking. JBL was at one point the longest reigning WWE champion of the previous 10 years. He had I think it was an almost 300-day reign. He then goes on to become a commentator. And at first, he's actually a pretty good commentator. At first. But somewhere along the way, Fro, he ends up being bad at it. He just does.
He's my least favorite commentators of all time. Up there with Michael Cole.
Now, to be fair, and I'm going to be totally...
I think Michael Cole is the worst, but after Michael Cole, it's definitely a JBL.
Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite JBL match, and I'm going to explain why, is his performance in the 98 Royal Rumble match.
Okay, yeah.
He is one of the early entrants in that match. Because Bradshaw, in 98, he's in the position of, we got a young guy here, he's got the look, he's got, he could be something, but we just don't have anything for him. He's in that match for almost 40 minutes. And he pulls off an amazing job in that match. He doesn't win it, but it's an amazing job. As far as his credentials, he actually is a world-traveled wrestler. Looking at his accomplishments, he won the CWA World Tag Team Championship. This is a promotion in Europe with Cannonball Grizzly. Was the Federación Internacional de Lucha Libre heavyweight champion. Was a two-time co-holder of the Global Wrestling Federation tag team titles, once with Bobby Duncombe Jr. and once with Black Bart. Co-holder of the Memphis Championship Wrestling Southern Tag Team titles with Ron Simmons and the OVW Southern Tag Team titles with Ron. Was the NWA North American Heavyweight Champion. Was the USWF Tag Team Champion, a co-holder with the Equalizer. And then in WWE was a former WWE Champion, Intercontinental Champion, United States Champion, 17-time Hardcore Champion, European Champion, and a 3-time co-holder of the Tag Team titles with Ron Simmons.
Yeah.
So his accomplishments are there, but most people will see mainly his work in WWE.
Yeah. And like I said, if we take away that he's an asshole, I like the angle he did with Rey Mysterio. That's one of the better JBL angles before he quit wrestling.
He had a good one with Shawn Michaels, too. That was a good angle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, this one is long overdue. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll take this. I guess I'll take the last two since you did the previous two. This is long overdue. This is a guy who, when he started, or when he came into WWF in 85, was a tag team wrestler. He was a youngin'. Like, he was in his early to mid-20s when he started in WWF. And was a part of one of the best tag teams ever with Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs. They could have had match of the night, night after night after night, with just about any team in that time. And then he leaves for a little bit, comes back towards the end of 90, and he's singles, and he starts to make a name for himself. and he's actually he's popular at this point. And then you get to SummerSlam '92, and he has that classic match with Bret Hart in front of his home people. A terrific match. Wins the Intercontinental title. And then shortly, by the end of the year, he's gone from WWF. Goes to WCW. Is in a main event push right away. And then about a year later goes back to WWF. Becomes a heel at one point. And he's a pretty good heel. And then goes back to WCW, then goes back to WWF one more time before he passes away. Strong man. I think underrated. He could have been a world champion. One of the best British wrestlers to ever come from over the pond. He definitely deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
To look up his resume, he was an IWA heavyweight champion. In Stampede Wrestling, was a 2-time co-holder of the International Tag Team titles with Bruce Hart. Held the British Commonwealth Mid-Heavyweight title. 2-time co-holder of the Stampede Wrestling International Tag Team titles with Dynamite Kid. 2-time North American champion, heavyweight champion, world mid-heavyweight champion in WWE, held the Intercontinental title, 2-time holder of the European title, 2-time hardcore champion, 2-time co-holder of the tag team titles with the Dynamite Kid and Owen Hart, and also held the WWWA Intercontinental Championship. Plus, one of the few white people that could rock the, God, I can't think of it, the corn rolls. One of the few white people that could rock the corn rolls and get away with it.
What's the corn roll?
Corn rolls. Don't you know what corn rolls are?
Oh.
They're hair and they're like all braided up. You gotta have long hair to do this.
Okay.
That's okay. And the final inductee announced, Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah.
He only wrestled one match and it was for NXT. Never wrestled he never had a match in WWE. Never had a match. Mainly wrestled in the United States in WCW, where he broke out, had a terrific match with Brian Pillman, an unbelievable match. He would travel back and forth for many years between Japan and WCW. He literally has traveled all over the world. The accomplishments, and this is going to be a mouthful, so be prepared, was a 2-time World Heavy Middleweight Champion for All-Star Wrestling, won the CMLL World Middleweight title and a co-holder of their tag team titles with Hiroshi Tanahashi. In Dragon Gate, held the Dream Gate title, held the Jersey All-Pro Light Heavyweight title, was a 2-time British Commonwealth Junior Heavyweight Champion for Michinoku Pro, was a 2-time NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, a record 11-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion that will probably never be matched, 6-time co-holder of the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, NWA World Welterweight Champion, UWA World Junior Light Heavyweight Champion, WWA World Junior Light Heavyweight Champion, WWF Light Heavyweight Champion, the War International Junior Heavyweight Champion, the co-holder of the Osaka Pro Tag Team titles, GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion in Pro Wrestling Noah, and co-holder of their Junior Heavyweight Tag titles. Won the WCW Light Heavyweight title and was a co-holder of the War International Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title, among many accolades in his career.
That is some accolades.
Probably the greatest junior heavyweight of all time. That's how good
I
he
would
is.
say.
And he was the creator of the Super J Cup, and he won 2 of those as well. So now that we have gone through the entire class, because we don't know if they'll probably do the Legacy Wing another day, and maybe they'll do the Warrior Award. I'm not really sure. What is your overall grade for this class of 2020?
Well, Baptista is getting a B minus. The Hulk Hogan faction is getting a C.
Okay.
What is after Hulk Hogan faction?
Oh, the Bellas.
Yeah, it's getting an F. After that, I will give JBL a C.
Okay. British Bulldog.
Oh, that's an A plus.
And Jushin Thunder Liger.
That's also an A plus.
So if I do, so would that make it like a C grade?
Yeah, C. Yeah.
All right. Batista, with all due respect to him, is a weak headliner. NWO is there to sort of be like the second headliner. The Bellas are too fresh for me as far as personalities go to be going in. JBL, I understand he's been an ambassador for the company. Davey Boy, long overdue. And Liger has to go in because he just retired, so I'm gonna give this... Ooh. It's not really that strong of a class, to be honest.
No.
I'm gonna give this a D.
Okay.
It would be a little bit higher if they had one more person like a Bulldog or a Liger. Because the NWO, the 4 that are going in, they've already been inducted.
Right.
Batista had a short career, but like I said, he did have some good years. JBL is like an a-hole. Everyone has an opinion of him. And the Bellas, we can make this joke, slept their way into the Hall of Fame.
Definitely.
All right. So that is going to do it for this week's episode, but we are going to get into the plugs now.
Pluggity plug.
If you have any questions, send an email, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Follow us on Twitter at WrestlingShow11 and follow us on Instagram. It is That Wrestling Show. Join our Facebook group. Just type in That Wrestling Show fan group and you're right there. If you can't find it, it's okay. I post the link in the description of each and every episode. You type that in the search bar, boom, you are right there. Visit the website. Maybe not until stuff gets back to normal. But do check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/That Wrestling Show. And if you join right now, you will get to be a part of the Founders Club, where you get to pick anything that you want Fro and I to review. Doesn't matter if you pledge $1, $2, $3 or more. We'll let you pick what we have to review on the network. Fro, what did you discuss on Another Digital Citizen with Luke this week?
Well, you maybe know this, but Luke doesn't like musicals.
I do know that.
So I did the most meta thing I could think of doing. I watched the guy that didn't like musicals with the guy that doesn't like musicals. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
So that is pretty meta, yes. So we sit and discuss the guy that did not like musicals with the guy that doesn't like musicals.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's plug some podcasts that we recommend. Check out Our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. They take you through the world of retro wrestling as only they can. And this week is their season finale, where they discuss in their influences Vince McMahon. He is a big influence, even though a lot of stuff he's done lately has not been good. He is a big influence. Plus, the finale of the royal flush of the worst managers of all time, and they review an episode of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
I have actually seen that.
That's a good show. I actually don't mind the show. I think it's good, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it as well. Movie, no.
Yeah, I've seen. I actually have the DVD set at my house.
The movie?
No,
movie?
I've seen the movie. The movie's The TV show, though, it's 80s cheesiness, but it's good.
I like the TV show, but the
movie's bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. Plus, they also posted on their main feed their review of WrestleMania 3, which, you know, if you're already a Patreon on their site, they do it here again for free. It's worth listening twice, in my opinion. If you like your podcasts hosted by one individual, who should they listen to?
Greetings from Allentown!
Yes, greetings from Allentown with PW Peter Winston. He watches one episode of professional wrestling each week in his own unique brand. He'll talk about sports, he'll talk about cats, beer, college, Las Vegas, wherever, whatever, he'll talk about it. This week, he reviews an episode of Wrestling Challenge from 1994 on WrestleMania 10 weekend.
Ooh.
So check out Greetings from Allentown. If you're looking for non-wrestling related podcasts, check out the Best Pick Movie Podcast with Tom, John, and Jess. They watch each and every Academy Award winning Best Picture in no particular order. This week, they discuss the Best Picture winner from 1960, The Apartment.
Oh, I really, really, really like that movie.
Would you like to know what it went up against?
Yes, please.
Okay. The other movies for Best Picture that year: The Alamo, Elmer Gantry, Sons and Lovers, and The Sundowners.
Yeah, the winner. It was the right winner.
Didn't even give a thought. He's like, yeah, they got it right.
Yep.
I actually have not seen this movie.
Oh, it's a good one.
I really should watch it. So I'm going to give my vote to another movie that came out that year that I really, really like, Spartacus.
Mm-hmm. Spartacus!
That's a really good movie if you haven't. It's a long one, but it's a really good movie. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen that one. Excuse me. Also, check out Unspooled with Paul and Amy. They watch each movie from AFI's list of the 100 greatest movies of all time, the 2007 edition. This week, they discuss 12 Angry Men. One of my absolute favorite movies.
Love that movie.
Love it. That is a masterpiece of a film.
Yep.
Also, check out Last Stop Penn Station with Kerry Silken and Ian Riccaboni. They go into the mind of Kerry Silken as he tells incredible life stories that he has experienced. This week, he's going to talk about going down to New Orleans on the hunt for cocaine. Should be very interesting. I actually have listened to some of the episodes lately. They have been very, very good. So, check it out. Last Stop Penn Station. Also, check out Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast, where I watch and review each and every South Park episode. This week, I discussed the episode Die Hippie Die. No comment on that episode, I take it. I guess not. And finally, check out Eliminated, a Royal Rumble podcast where Jim Boy Star and I, we watch each and every Royal Rumble match. This week, we are discussing the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble match. And it's sort of interesting that the timing is there because we're almost to the 1 year anniversary of the main event of last year's WrestleMania. It sort of is a perfect timing. So check that out. Eliminated, a Royal Rumble podcast. All right. Next week is the big...
Nothing. No, nothing is happening next week. It's cancelled.
It is not. It is the big WrestleMania preview show.
No.
We are going to predict each and every match for WrestleMania 36. Plus, we're going to continue the annual tradition of WrestleMania lists. Our friend Jason Burke should be with us next week for this episode because we are going to give you our rankings of the 5 worst WrestleMania matches ever.
Yay!
That's going to be a fun list. I already have my number 1. I already know what it is.
Oh, I have my number 1 as well.
I think it's completely different from mine.
Probably.
Oh, by the way, folks, we do thank you for listening to the show during this difficult time. If you're going to take any advice on what on what you should do during this time, please don't take advice from podcasts. Listen to the scientists, listen to the doctors, listen to those who freaking know what they're doing.
And wash your hands.
And wash your hands. So everyone, have a good, safe weekend. Stay inside if you can. And come back next week for the big WrestleMania preview show right here on That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And as always,
WrestleMania.
wrestle on.